And regardless of what the government or this committee does, the public education system that you've escaped has been a failure, and we know that you're going to do the right thing for your kids in the long run. And we thank you. We thank you so much for making your voice heard here.
That's
State
Representative Blaine Wilhauer yesterday in the Illinois House Education Committee, where they talked about State Representative Tara Costa Howard's measure to regulate homeschoolers. Welcome back. It's Illinois in Focus Daily, and we talked about this yesterday. And if you missed it, you can watch the entire hearing, 2+ hours long. Go to thecentersquare.com where you can get all the headlines. Sign up for the newsletter, and you can see there a lot of activity from yesterday. Just some of the things, of course, we talked about. Despite the flood of opposition, that Homeschool Act from Tara Costa Howard advanced out of committee. So you can go read the story. You can actually also find the entire committee hearing on our YouTube page here at the Center Square. So go check that out if you want to delve deep into all of the policy back and forth. But what we'll do here is we'll just kind of, hear some of the debate. Not all of it. Obviously, we don't have the 2+ hours because I got to get back to the Capitol to cover what's going on. But you did have some interesting back and forth with various opponents. Again, historic amount of opponents filed. And it's very similar to what we saw with the state's ban on semi-automatic firearms. When that bill was going through the State House, there were tens of thousands of people who signed up to oppose the measure. And, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 that supported the measure. So it was, grossly, the opposition was outweighing the support. And that was the same thing here for the Homeschool Act. The opposition was 40,000+ who filed in opposition, while about 1,000 filed in support. They also showed up. Homeschool families were there on the scene and even providing testimony. This is a former Chicago teacher turned homeschooler sharing her thoughts on how homeschool parents in the Black community want that autonomy.
Black families like my own are choosing to homeschool in larger and larger numbers each year. The public schools are failing our children, and homeschool represents a much better alternative. In 2024, only 31% of Illinois public high school students met or exceeded proficiency in English language arts, and only 26% in math. Homeschoolers, in contrast, consistently outperform public school students on standardized tests. Black homeschool children, in particular, score as much as 42 percentile points above their public school counterparts. This bill will intimidate and discourage parents from choosing this much better option for their children.
So what does the bill do? The bill does a variety of things. It requires homeschool parents to fill out a form and send it in to the local school district and the State Board of Education. State Board of Education supports this and says that they want to make sure they know about all the kids, and they have records of their academic progress, and that the homeschool administrator, who is likely a parent, has a certain level of degree and knowledge, and there's been various concerns that this is just getting the camel's nose under the tent. And if you've never heard that phraseology, it essentially means that it's a slippery slope. There was another phraseology for you. It's just one more step to get to even more control by just incrementalism, so to speak. That's the concern here that a lot of the homeschool parents had. Here's some more back and forth from yesterday's committee hearing with State Representative Blaine Wilhauer and several other proponents and opponents.
Because they're trying to get away from this kind of stuff. They don't want to be tied to that. This is going to require them to be tied to that. And if it's not requiring it today, Representative, it's just one small vote away from doing it. So I don't think that I would just shake my head like this is something that we shouldn't be concerned about. The 44,000 people out here shouldn't be concerned about.
Representative, as ISB has stated, as current law, there are specific subjects that are required to be taught. We don't dictate the curriculum. the freedom and flexibility and creativity, shall we say, is there for homeschoolers as long as they're teaching the subjects. The goal is to make sure that we have kids who are getting an education in those subjects.
So Tara Costa Howard, again, the sponsor of that there, discussing, what she says is the importance to make sure that kids, and she even shouted that she's the voice of the voiceless. And she pointed back to a couple of the proponents that were sitting behind her and said she's speaking for them. And then you had Republicans say, well, they're speaking for the 40,000 plus people who signed up in opposition to it and came to the State House to stand outside the State House committee room. I talked with one in particular, Charity Cunningham. She was literally right outside the door in the hallway, and she shared with me some of her thoughts.
What brings you here today?
Homeschool rights are important in Illinois, and we are fighting to keep them free and reduce regulation on homeschooling.
What about this particular bill do you think is offensive?
The whole thing, but it's not just a form to be filled out for registration. We wouldn't need 45 pages and a 15-page amendment to do that. There are the ambiguous language within the bill opens up the door for future legislation that will just completely change homeschooling in Illinois, private schooling in Illinois, and that's just a tragedy that cannot happen.
What do you say to those who, the sentiment is you guys are doing this all without any kind of oversight?
That's completely false. There's a 10-page document on ibse.net that describes the homeschool policy as it stands in Illinois. There are provisions in there for abuse, for educational neglect, for policies and procedures of withdrawing your kids from public education. There are policies in place in Illinois. It is not a free-for-all. It is not unregulated. So we do not need more regulation. They are concerned with educational neglect, which is happening in the public school system. My boys were not getting the education they deserved in public school. Abuse is happening rampantly in the public school system. A teacher in my district was just arrested on Sunday for abusing a child. So the problem is not homeschooling, and the problem is not private schooling.
And talk about, do you have reservations about like the curriculum that Illinois and public
Absolutely. The curriculum is absolutely a big issue because they want to come in and regulate our homeschooling curriculum, the private school curriculum. And if we wanted to follow their curriculum, most of us would just have our kids in public school. My boys were not being challenged appropriately. Their needs were not being met. So I don't want someone approving my curriculum who couldn't even meet their needs while they were their own student.
So again, that was Charity Cunningham, a homeschool mother that I talked with yesterday at the Capitol outside the committee room. And then that was while the committee was still going on, dipping back into the committee. You had a Democrat state lawmaker talk about just a horrific story of a young kid who ended up dead, and the parents were concealing the death or something to that effect. Here's just a little bit of that back and forth.
A coroner would later find that he had died from an accidental shot fired from a gun that the children found in the house. His mother then hid the body and later confided to her friend, Lauderica Wilson, that she did it because she did not want to risk losing her other children. She told her friend, nobody knows. He's not in school. He's homeschooled. I've got this figured out. Wilson recalled in an interview with a reporter about a conference she had with Staples a few months after the child had died. She still said she had too much to lose. Wilson, who now lives in Florida, said it was one of several calls she had with Staples over the course of months as she tried to figure out what happened and just what to do about it. Police records indicate that in July, in response to a call from Wilson, they visited the home. Staples denied the child even existed. Later, when police executed a search warrant, officers found Zion's body in a metal trash can in the garage.
I mean, absolutely just horrifying, right? Graphic description, and he raised this during a hearing about homeschool regulations because of these horrible parents doing horrible things. That was a justification of sorts. Tara Costa Howard said that that's a horrible story, and it's that type of thing they're hoping to address with the Homeschool Act. But one of the opponents got up at the table there and just shot that whole idea down that the Homeschool Act wouldn't help this at all.
Death of Zion Staples was horrific. I take seriously the words of Jesus in the New Testament that it would have been better for a millstone to have been put around that person's neck than for him to die. But this bill would not have protected Zion Staples. So how do we protect other vulnerable children? It's through DCFS. DCFS dropped the ball on that, and a child died as a result. So how do we provide more support to them, not putting more of a burden on them, as HB 2827 would do with DCFS, but give them more of the resources? They're underfunded. They're overworked. You talk to caseworkers, the burnout, the trauma that they go through. That's what we should be looking at.
So the debate around children's safety, is the Homeschool Act the answer, or is it to get DCFS to do better? I will note that recent reports from an investigative outfit, Illinois Answers, part of the Better Government Association, they said that the DCFS is just not properly reporting child deaths, and it's been a years-long problem. And there's all kinds of concerns about youth in care of the state and how they're treated, and just pretty horrific stories out of there as well. But the last little bit from the hearing, State Representative Adam Niemerg got into a back and forth with an official from the Illinois State Board of Education who is very much in support of the Homeschool Act, saying that they just need to know where all the kids are.
All students in the state of Illinois deserve an education.
They're not the government's kids. There are these parents in this room that are standing up for their, religious freedoms, parental rights. They're their kids and they're their students. And to insinuate, that we don't care about a child that was victim of a horrible crime is an insult to the 47,000 witness slips, an insult to the moms that are looking at me right now in this room.
So
and
Niemerg went on to talk about the historic number of people who filed opposition slips against this bill. Regardless, the bill passed out of committee. But State Representative Amy Ellick, who is very much part of the major conversations opposing this as the minority spokesperson for that House Education Committee, she said that, yeah, it did pass committee, but there's still big hurdles for this thing to get anywhere, especially with some Democrats already coming out in opposition. I mean, for instance, we heard from LaShawn Ford, who said that he's heard nothing but bad things from constituents about this bill, so he's not going to support it. So what's the prospect of this thing actually advancing, or possibly not getting enough Democrat support to get simple majorities to get it over the finish line?
I would like to just see the bill die. I would absolutely like to see the Democrats in the House tell Tara Costa Howard, this is not a good idea for us and we don't want to be on it. Let it go.
Do you think there are enough Democrats to keep it from getting that simple majority before May 31st?
I certainly hope so, and that'll be the question, and that's why families need to keep contacting their legislators and don't give up now.
Where do we go from here? Well, there is another hearing. It looks like it could come back up this afternoon. Not sure if it's actually going to be, a discussion or an amendment, because Tara Costa Howard did say expect an amendment to come back. It's bill deadline week, so a lot of stuff flying out of committees, that being one of them. Then obviously they'll, do a few weeks of getting stuff ready to have floor debates, and we'll be tracking this very closely. But that's just the House. All right, some civics lessons. A lot of homeschoolers were at the State House giving civics lessons, I'm sure. But this is just the first step. It's got to pass the full House before it goes to the Senate. And then the Senate, it's got to go through committee. And then the full Senate before it can actually get to the governor. So it could be a long slog here. But this is obviously one of the major issues of this legislative term. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us each and every weekday morning here with Illinois in Focus Daily.